Hey everyone, my name is Francois. I'm one of the co-founders of Pancake. We might change the name in a few days, but for now it's called Pancake. And the concept is creating an autonomous company. So thanks for coming tonight. We're super happy to have you. There's going to be a lot of pizza, drinks, and really cool discussions after this. So today we're going to talk about three things. First of all, best practices on setting up OpenClaw. A live demo. We're actually going to launch a company tonight. We're going to make a lot of money out of this company. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to do a live demo on setting up go-to-market for your autonomous company. And that's obviously the trickiest part. Before we start, who's ever already set up OpenClaw in this room? Can you raise your hand? OK, so I'd say less than half of the people here. Cool. So let me just explain how we came up with this autonomous company and where this is all coming from. So I'm Francois, the founder of Pancake, and my co-founders are here in the founding team. Guillaume's over there. He's jumping around. And we had actually started by building, so we're both second-time founders. We exited our first companies, and then we raised a bunch of money in Europe, came to SF, and started working on an observability company called Basalt. And we really had a hard time differentiating with other companies in SF around this topic. But we had started to make this company work on OpenClaw. And I don't know about you guys, but when I started using OpenClaw, I had the same wow effect as when I discovered like ChatGPT in November 2022. It was just this amazing thing, like agents are actually doing stuff for me and not just like answering my prompts. And we started running our company on OpenClaw more and more, and at the end we realized that the company was pretty much running itself. And because Basalt is a rock, we actually created a fake company on OpenClaw called The Rock Company. It was headed by Dwayne, an AI CEO. So some of you guys will understand the pun. And Dwayne was basically had like one role. It was to make Basalt a NASDAQ company. And hire as many sub-agents as it needed to make that a reality. 3 months in, we realized that over 50% of our company was running on Claw, and we had become the bottleneck for OpenClaw. And at some point, I remember Dwayne even telling me, like I was asking Dwayne, how can we go faster? And Dwayne literally answered, you're the bottleneck, Francois, because you have to sleep like 7 hours each night. You actually have to take care of your kids or whatever, and so you're not always available for me. And so I asked Dwayne, okay, how can we go faster? And he said, give me a credit card, which I did. And now Dwayne is spending a lot of money, and it's producing results, let's say. Not always good, but anyways, without bragging, we're part of the top 1% OpenClaw users. We know OpenClaw really well. And so we came up with this idea of basically pivoting and transforming our usage of OpenClaw into a product. The way we see the future evolving is something we call autonomous companies, and that's a word that doesn't really exist yet. But the idea is that humans are going to become board members, and AI agents are going to be the ones executing. And we think there's a future where this happens for really, really small companies, where AI agents just run the GTM, they run the engineering, the ops, the finance, and then they send you reports. They report back to you. You give them feedback. They get better. And at the end of the day, you give less and less feedback because you don't really have to. We see a lot of small teams achieving what literally took 50 people to do. So in my previous company that I exited, we were 120 people. I had 120 employees. And I think like right now we're a team of 5, and we're doing almost the same amount of work without exaggerating as we used to do with 120 employees. And so we think there's going to be pretty soon one-person unicorns, or at least like a whole bunch of 1 people to 5 people sustainable companies. Unicorn doesn't have to be the end goal. It can also having like a passive income, so you can go surfing at Ocean Beach or wherever you want. That's also a really cool lifestyle. And I think this is going to become possible with tools like OpenClaw, and that's exactly what we're trying to do at Pancake. Quick show of hands, who's currently working on a side project right now? Okay, so more than half the people. Who's working on a company with less than 5 people? Yeah. Who's in a company with more than 5 people? as like working on a project with, okay, cool. So what's the difference with basically just using Claude and using creating an autonomous company? The main difference is that on Claude or on any other, even OpenClaw, today the human drives, like the human prompts, and the agents respond. In the autonomous company, it's exactly the opposite. The AI prompts you, and you, the human, are given tasks to do by the AI. So basically, the AI is running your company, the AI is running your ads, AI is running your outreach campaigns, is proactively, trying to accomplish the KPIs that you set. And when it's having like a bottleneck, it's asking you, hey, Francois, can you please unlock this for me because I need your help there? That's the main difference between autonomous company and a normal AI-driven company. So let's get into how to make this possible. We're going to go in a bit technical here. So for those who've never tried OpenClaw, I'll try to make this as easy to understand as possible. But I also want to bring value to those who already have tried OpenClaw. The main thing that you want to succeed in doing here is making your claw proactive so your company can actually become autonomous. So there's two things in OpenClaw that are useful. One of them is called heartbeats. The other one is called cron. A cron is basically just a task that repeats every hour or day, or you define at what sequence it repeats. Heartbeats is something that's native in OpenClaw. It's basically a Markdown file where OpenClaw wakes up every 30 minutes and reads the Markdown. So the way we use it is we programmed our heartbeats to say to OpenClaw, those are the KPIs that you have to follow. We want to reach this by the end of the week. Make sure that we're on track. If we're not on track, ask accountability to your sub-agents as to why we're not on track, and find ways to get back on track. So just this, it's very simple, but it's very powerful. We also believe in creating a strong CEO that has this heartbeats, but then having the CEO just be a router for sub-agents that can do all the work. So the CEO is obviously loaded with the most expensive model. The sub-agents can have cheaper models. I believe in giving your agents a credit card with a monthly limit. So each sub-agent has at least $1,000 in spend per month. And you should definitely have KPIs that they have to chase. When you set up your OpenClaw, you always have the choice of doing it locally on your computer or doing it through a VPS or on cloud. I think those who have tried Claw know that the local setup is obviously the more powerful because you have access to everything. The only problem with local is it forces you to buy a Mac Mini at some point. And Apple is sold out of Mac Minis, literally for 2 months. And so you have to go on the Mac Mini black market. And the other problem is you don't want to pay $600 for a Mac Mini when you could just have your OpenClaw on the cloud. The only limitation you have on the cloud is browser use. It just sucks. And the second limit you have is computer use. And there are workarounds. At least Claw is getting better at this, and there are libraries you can find that allow you to do this. What do we use for browser, Guillaume? Browser-based, for example, is a good way to go around that. So you should be able to have a cloud setup. I would recommend going for a cloud or VPS setup and not necessarily a local setup, because you want your agent to work when you're in the tube or when you're whatever. You want to be able to talk to it on Telegram without having to open your Mac to talk to your Claw. So the way Claw works is through Markdown, like Markdown files, MD files. It's actually very elegant and extremely simple. It's not complex engineering with code. It's actually just natural language. And I'm not going to go through all of those Markdown files. I'm just going to focus on the memory part because that's the most important thing. And this is how you can really get your OpenClaw to become super powerful. The reason we had such a big wow effect is because our OpenClaw knew our company better than we did. And how did we do that? Basically, we plugged in our OpenClaw to our granola. So it had every meeting note, it had every transcript, and it was just getting smarter and smarter with every meeting that we had. That being said, you don't want your Claw to just gather information from your granola and your email and put everything in memory.md. Memory.md is like the big memory file that is the main memory file of your OpenClaw that's going to read at the beginning of every session. If you have a very big and bloated memory.md, it's just going to become too big, and your Claw is just going to become really stupid at some point. It's going to forget stuff, and it's also going to be very expensive in terms of tokens. So what you want to do is actually have other files, so like a very lightweight memory.md, but with links to many different files, and create a sort of a wiki architecture, like a Wikipedia architecture, where your memory.md has links to, for example, your skills repo, which is a repo of all the skills that you've installed for your agents, or like just like session files for every session. It can record what decisions you've taken, etc. And so on the behavior part, there's skills and tools are the most important ones. So skills, are you guys familiar with skills? Show of hands, who's already used a skill? All right, so skills, you all know what that is. So having your skills, that's handled by OpenClaw in a very neat folder that with a link from memory to m.md to your skills. And the tools, this is where we have all the API keys, you know, credit card information. And someone should really right now be working on credit card spend for agents because that's going to be a big issue. This is the brain of Dwayne, our The Rock Company CEO. So the way it works is we've connected our it's called grain for us, not granola. And what happens is every day it's gonna, so for every meeting it's gonna sync the new meeting transcript in our wiki. And every night it's actually gonna go ahead and look at every discussion and create a new record for every company from the latest meeting transcripts. And if the company already exists, it's just going to update the company record. Just like on Wikipedia, it's just going to have records for every person and every company. There are ways to do this, like on the shelf. There are repos you can use that are open source. Gary Tan from YC just did one called GBrain. You can check it out. There's also Karpathy that did an ID file, which is basically just a prompt that you can send over to Cloud Code, and it's going to create your wiki for you. Okay. And we're going to show you a live demo. We're going to create the company together. Before this, we're launching Pancake basically to help you do everything like set up for you instantly. So everything I just described is going to be handled by Pancake natively. It's going to be cloud-based. And I think like the idea behind Pancake is we just want to help people create companies or work on their side projects or create really small companies that can go really, really far and not have to worry about all this setup. Also, something that I think is going to be important is we want you to always keep access to all your memory files and everything, so you're never locked in with Pancake. So we don't want you to feel vendor locked in. And we'd love you to try it out. And this is why we're giving an unreasonable amount of credits to all the first people who scan this QR code. We're going to cap it at 100 people. There's already 30 signed up since yesterday. And we released it. We're going to release it next week. So scan the QR code and sign up, and you're going to get a very big amount of credits. Let's go ahead and create a company together. I'm actually going to show you before we do this how we work on Telegram with our different Claw instances. So OpenClaw is really used on Telegram. I don't know if you guys use it that way as well. You can also use it on Slack or on Discord. And I really recommend having a different discussion for every subject you're using, like a separate discussion for GTM ads, another one for outbound, another one for finance, because that way it remembers the context from the discussion in a separate session. So here's an example. Dwayne is the CEO, so it gives us like a nightly review, what was reviewed today, what's missing, red flags, these deals, guys, we need to go faster with these. There's red alerts, medium and high, the meetings we had today, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like this daily review that we have. And Dwayne is giving us we actually spend a lot of time talking to Dwayne. I also have my own personal discussion with Dwayne, asking him a whole bunch of stuff. Like, for example, this presentation that you've just seen was entirely made by Dwayne. And it was made by Dwayne because he has a design system of Pancake. So I just walked him through, I literally gave him a voice note saying, this is what I want to see in the slides. And he made the presentation for me. Okay, then ads, just to show you how that works. So for example, the ads parts. Every day, Jasper is giving me, so one of the sub-agents, an update on daily ads. It's actually going to optimize the ads by itself. So Jasper looks at every campaign every day and says, okay, let's check it out. I actually have a really good CTR on this ad. And so it's saying, I'm bumping up this one and I'm reducing this other ad. And so it's doing updates by itself. And I'm just asking it for update. Let's try it. Let's see. It's going to tell me what it did today. Jasper's typing. Yep, there you go. So it's giving me an update on what's doing on LinkedIn and Reddit. Those are the ad channels we have. If I look at, for example, outreach, we use Lemlist, which is a competitor to HeyReach, so it basically does the outreach campaigns for us. It's also giving us like a campaign update, and it's basically running the campaigns by itself. It's finding new leads, sending them in a campaign. Every day it's looking at the campaigns, optimizing, changing the wording, creating new campaigns. It's just doing all of that by itself. And then finally, and I'm not going to spend too long on that one because this is very confidential information, but Onyx is our finance manager, and it's looking at all of our cash burn and everything, and giving us feedback on how we're doing and what we should do better. It's basically like if we had a CFO. Okay, here we go. Let's ask Dwayne to create a company. Let's create a company using this skill. All right, any ideas? What company should we build right now? I know it's a hard one. A what? A template company? Oh, I like it. Let's create a pancake delivery company. Cool. All right. So it's going to call it Stacked. That's a good idea. On-demand pancake delivery, fresh, hot, made to order in under 30 minutes. That's ambitious. Let's say overnight delivery. Okay, but also that's good. All right, here's the org chart for Stacked. So I'm the board member. Batter is called the CEO. Syrup is the head GTM. Okay, it took this way too far. Whisk is the head ops, and Crisp handles QA and freshness. Seriously. So there's not going to be any engineer in this particular example. In most examples that most times it's more like a software company. So there's usually like QA and security. In this case, it's QA and freshness. All right, let's go. What's it going to do next? Okay, cool. So now it's actually fetching the right skills to make them better. Let's go. Yep. Creating a landing page is step 4. That's a good idea. Building the landing page now. And in the meantime, it's going to start working on a landing page. It's also going to start working on a market research. That's going to appear in Notion. And I think like one of the key things to making this work well is to have the right integrations. That's going to be already there in Pancake, but the way we do it is we have native integrations. I mean, we took the time to integrate with Notion, integrate with Vercel so it can deploy presentations like this one literally in a minute, and also deploy websites. Obviously, integrations with GitHub. I would strongly recommend integration with LinkUp for web search. And actually, I have a slide on the integrations that we recommend right after. Who's using something other than Telegram for their OpenClaw? I'd just be curious to know. Yeah? What are you using? Discord? Yeah? WhatsApp, you're talking to yourself on WhatsApp, which is kind of weird, I find. Yeah, but usually it's you talking to your own. It doesn't actually have a name when you talk to WhatsApp, which I find perturbing. But it is. Okay, so we have a landing page for Stacked. Let's see it. Order tonight, wake up to pancakes. That's good. It used the design system. I didn't ask it to do it, but it used our design system called Syrup. And so there you go. So that's the easy part. Now the hard part is setting up automatic, checks for KPIs, GTM, and that kind of stuff. So KPIs is I want 1,000 signups by the end of the week for the beta launch. Okay, let's do it. And it should suggest the next steps. It should program its own heartbeats and program its own crons to check on the advancement of those KPIs, to make their sub-agents accountable, to make sure that all of this is being fulfilled. So transforming into daily KPIs now, 1,000 beta signups by the end of the week. That's 5 days, 200 signups per day. All right, so it suggests these acquisition channels: Reddit posts, X-thread, cold email batch, ad creative, sign-up conversion rates. So it's setting up all of this autonomy stack now. So it's probably going to whip up some sort of ad agent, probably an outreach agent. I'm not sure if cold email is the best, but why not? We can try it. And content. So you guys see the idea, and I think where you really have to be good when you do this is, obviously this is just like a demo right now, but I think you taking the time to optimize the skills of your ads person. I think the beginning takes time, and then it becomes stronger and stronger. And today, my ads agent literally does everything by itself. I only spend half an hour per day talking on Telegram to my GTM agents, and they really deliver results. So that's what we wanted to show you for this this really quick demo of what it can be like, and to go back to the GTM part, which is the biggest bottleneck. Here are a few tips as well on how to do this well. Any questions before I jump into GTM? No? Okay, cool. So what we find really works when you're doing an autonomous company is to focus on channels that agents can run as autonomously as possible. Typically, when you have a sales-based approach, that would be cold email via Lemlist or HeyReach. LinkedIn DMs also works via HeyReach, and lead research via Lookup. So, if you're sending thousands of emails or LinkedIn DMs to the wrong people, you're just going to waste your time. So, being able to explain what the ICP is, that should be in a specific file, like ICP.md, which is linked from the memory.md. And then your sub-agents from GTM know exactly who your ICP is. And so via Lookup, basically our agent is always looking for new prospects. So it's adding hundreds of new, in the case of Basalt, it was hundreds of new VP engineers every day that are integrating in our campaigns. They're enriched using Clay. Also, we give the Clay API to Dwayne. And so all of this is done autonomously. For product-led growth, we recommend having ads agents. So Google, Meta, and Reddit works really well. And a content officer on Reddit, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And lead magnet agents. So tools, reports, and whatever is calculators. Those are examples of lead magnets that we've done. If anyone here is willing to create an ads agent, that would be awesome. That's really something that's missing right now. I think the way we're doing ads is we had to do all the plugins manually to LinkedIn and Reddit. It's actually pretty clunky. And I'm really waiting for someone to just launch an ads agent that just works with OpenClaw. So if anyone's looking for a project that you can launch on Pancake, please do that. That'd be awesome. Feedback is essential when you're doing your GTM autonomously. And it takes a lot of time at the beginning and less time. So how to do the feedback? It's super important not to put the feedback in memory.md. Again, you want to have a very thin memory.md with links everywhere. And so when it does something that's not perfect, for example, creates a LinkedIn post that you don't like, how do you give the feedback? Don't just say, I hate the post, do it better. Or I would prefer it to be more humoristic or whatever. It's actually much better to say, this is how I would have written the post. Learn from this example. And it's actually going to look at how you would have written the post. It's going to say, oh, I see that you're using real-life examples. I see that you have a bit of humor in your post. You're making it shorter. You have emojis. It's going to detect what you made, how you made it differently. It's going to transform that into its own feedback loop. And it's going to store that in a specific MD file. So in my case, it's a socialnetworktone.md for LinkedIn post, for example. And so giving it feedback, I think, this is a very good practice. You should never be repeating a correction twice. So when you're doing a process, immediately transform it into a skill. It's a reflex. And there you go. Tools that we recommend you set up when you want to create your autonomous GTM campaigns. I already mentioned Lemlist and Hayreach. For content, I personally plug into Buffer. So it programs content, but there's a bunch of different tools for this. Lead research, lookup is really good. There's also other tools like this. And that was able to book us 10 to 20 new meetings each week. So that worked really well for us. Yep. Yeah, that'd be good if you can give the mic. Thanks.
Yeah, just a question on how you do feedback. I have typically been doing this in memory.md. Do you have in that example of the LinkedIn post, do you just have a LinkedIn post skill, and then when you give feedback, it just appends, your examples to that skill? Is that how you typically do it?
That's exactly how I do it. So when I give feedback, the way I do it today is I say, I'm giving you feedback on this LinkedIn post. I want you to, this is how I would have written the LinkedIn post. Derive your own feedback from the way I would have written it, and make sure to put it in LinkedIn posts.md. I don't always remember the name of the skill, so I usually say, make sure to put this in the right skill. It usually says, okay, I just updated skill name, blah, blah, blah. I think today, OpenClaw is at a stage where you should always mention, make sure you update the right skill, else it's just going to update memory.md. And again, the best practice here is, I think there was a really interesting article by, again, Gary Tan, who's really good OpenClaw engineer that you guys should follow if you're not following it already, called FAT. It was a thin harness fat skills, and the idea is the same, very thin memory and very fat skills. Yep.
That's a question about how you're doing ads. Are you doing any ads that involve visuals?
Yeah.
And how do you get the agent to actually do those correctly?
So we actually have a sub-agent I didn't mention for our design system specifically that is able to generate visuals connected to Nano Banana, to a whole bunch of other tools. And it has the color codes that we use for the right font family. It just has everything from our design system. It knows that it should always have some sort of a pink square with a black background to show one strong word in every slide. It has all those rules that are set. I literally just gave it a slide that I made on myself. The first time I had to make it myself on Figma, which is extremely painful because I suck at design. And then I just gave it the slide and said, derive a design system from this. And then it created a design system that works surprisingly well. And this sub-agent is being called, or it can also just be a skill if you don't want to over-engineer it. It's just being called, for us, it's called syrup.md. It's just being called whenever you want to create an ad. It can either create visuals or just create text like this. Yep. Yep. Oh, sorry, I think there's already a question right there. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I can pass it after. How do you put credit cards? Do you have to? Yeah.
So, for lack of a better solution, the way we're doing it today is literally we're just. I shouldn't say this because you guys are going to try hacking my Dwayne tonight. I literally just gave the credit card number in tools.md. Whoops. Yeah, I know, that's terrible. Pancake is going to have something for this that's going to be better, I promise. But I'm not aware of any. I didn't want to over-engineer something with a literally a spend manager, but there should be some sort of really easy to set up tool for this that I haven't found.
Wait, another quick question.
Yeah.
Are you mostly using just Opus 4.6 in all of these? Do you use any open source models? What does that look like?
Yeah. Look, I tried creating this presentation with my ChatGPT subscription, and honestly, it was just so stupid. So I think we still haven't made peace with what Claude did. My heart is still ripped out. But Opus 4.6 is just so much better. And there is an argument to be made that you're not necessarily spending more money with Opus than with other models, cheaper models like Sonnet, because it's just going so much faster that it's just spending also less tokens because it's finding the answer quicker. That being said, open source models obviously take the cost down a huge notch. I think it does make sense in certain sub-agents that do very simple tasks to say like your default should be Kimi or whatever. But every time I've tried it, I've always been a bit deceived. So I think it takes time to understand exactly which sub-agents for what type of task. And maybe it would be worth it to engineer some sort of there's this new word that's come out called the resolver. It's something similar, which basically routes different types of tasks to the right model. I think that could make sense. Today, the honest answer is we're just pouring everything into Opus, and we're spending money on tokens. But every dollar I'm spending on token is minutes of life that I'm, buying. So I'm okay with that.
Firstly, thank you for the presentation. It was super helpful. I'm trying to build a B2C app on the side. So is there a sub-agent or something that sort of works with UGC creators? Because UGC marketing is a big thing for B2C.
Yeah.
Is there something that Pancake has right now?
So the way Pancake works is you just literally, like OpenClaw, you literally just put your API key and it builds the connection for you. So it works with any UGC tool that has an API key. So I think like the most famous ones are like, which one are you thinking about? Like Arcades, for example?
Yeah, but I'm thinking more in terms of not even using any of those tools for me to like manually just reach out to creators and then keep a track of which creator is posting which video and all that. Essentially not using a tool to make AI videos, but to work with real creators.
Yeah. Yeah, if this tool has an API key, you can just like install it on Pancake. It's just going to be part of, in tools.md, it's going to say for UGC ads, use this tool. And then it's going to link to like probably a Python script from another file that has the connection, like how the connection is made. And it's going to be able to call the connection to the API. That's how it usually works.
Okay.
But in terms of experience, you just give it the API key.
Okay, but you're saying it also supports AI ad generator tools like Arcades and all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was one slide where you said the CEO is basically going to route all the sub-agents, correct? Now, when you had different Telegram groups, is there a situation where you would put a different identity, like a different Telegram at
Yeah. So wait, just to make sure I understand. You're saying that is there a case where I talk to the sub-agent directly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Today, yes, but we think that's actually a bad practice, and we're going to stop doing this. And on Pancake, we're not doing it that way. I think like there's no convincing reason that I found for why you should be talking directly to your sub-agents. And if the CEO is just a router, at the end, it's like you're always talking to your sub-agent directly. We think that's the best way. The reason we see the CEO as a router is because if you want the CEO to execute, you're going to have a latency problem at some point. If you're doing this multiplayer mode, like with 2 or 3 people, you're just going to you're going to be talking together at Dwayne. That actually happened to us today. We were both talking at Dwayne, and he was starting to get mixed up, and he was sending me outputs from like that were a mixture of the other person's question. I could literally tell what the other person was working on. And so just seeing the CEO as a router just makes it so much easier to be multiplayer. It also makes the model more efficient because sometimes you're going to have, like we said, open source models or cheaper models on different sub-agents.
So is that going to be more reliant on a model that is good at talking to sub-agents, like, say, Kimi?
Yeah. You mean like should the CEO have a specific model that's good at routing?
Correct, yeah. Like
I think like because routing is such a cheap task, we're just going to give it Opus 4.6. Okay. You can always test if you're doing your own OpenClaw setup, you can always test and see if it works better. But it's probably a really, really cheap thing to do. And I think like when behind routing, there's like it routes with full context. And it should route with knowledge as to what skills should be called. So you don't really want it to go and pick the wrong skills. Depending on how complicated your setup is, like how many skills you have, how many MD files you have. Like we're a team of 5, and honestly, we're starting to have a lot of Markdown files. It's insane. Like And so I think like having a good router with a good model can actually be worth it.
Thank you.
I think like a big reason why the cost of OpenClaw is so big in tokens is because people put so much data in memory.md and have like so much data in those main MD files. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about the spend you have, like the weekly spend? Because if it's a side project, like you don't want to waste $10,000s every week, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So before we start Basalt, we were doing about like 500K in annual recurring revenue, which we achieved with a team, with a really small team of 5. And we were spending around, ballpark is a few $100s per day. Maybe we reached over 1,000 per day at some points, but I don't think we ever went much higher than that. So for a side project, that doesn't really make sense. For a company doing 500K in annual recurring revenue, it makes more sense because it just means you're not hiring other people. That being said, it's never going to be like that on the first day. It's always going to start with like small spend to test stuff. But I think you should be okay with spending a few $100s per month on your side projects if you're serious about it, at the beginning at least. And then it's going to scale.
Maybe a last question. Oh.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks. Are you guys running any evals on kind of how your CEO is routing all of these requests through different skill MDs, or are you kind of just letting the end KPIs drive your overall evaluation?
I love that question because we come from the world of evals. Basalt was an evals company, so we've literally sold evals to everyone for a year. It's a trap. Guillaume, do you want to answer that? I'm gonna let you fall in that trap.
I whispered the question.
Oh, go ahead. You want to answer?
Oh, no, answer it, yeah.
No, go ahead.
We don't. No, the short answer is that we don't.
Okay.
Currently, we just like monitor the output currently, and I guess like, I mean, did you feel at any point the need to evaluate the output of Dwayne?
No, and I think like when we used to sell evals, we realized that evals only made sense for pretty big companies. Like when you're still small, you can always vibe it. I think the only part where we're seeing problems, reliability issues, is it's forgetting skills. Like it's forgetting that it has a skill for this. That's the only tricky part that we're having a hard time. The memory engineering was super complex to do, but that part, now that it's solved, it solves. So we don't really see the need for it.
Did you build your own memory solution, or are you using?
We built our own. We haven't found any. To be honest, we haven't found any really good one. I guess like I would probably put a bet on GBrain because it's just so popular on GitHub right now. But for now, it doesn't really do what we want it to do. If you look at the architecture of our brain, and so for now, for Pancake, we're just going to reuse what we did for the Rock Company because it just works really well. What you guys can see here is, so every night, it's taking every transcripts and every email, and it's creating files that are stored in this organization. So there's an index that, like the homepage of Wikipedia, you could say. There's a decision index as well, which are all the decisions that have been taken today, yesterday, last week, etc., for every day. So there's a record of every decision. And it just extracts the decisions from the meeting notes. Like literally in a meeting, we say, okay, guys, are we taking the decision? Let's do it. Sometimes we even say, Dwayne, record this decision, and just so we make sure that it's recorded. Processes, the team, and I think the most important one is meetings and GTM. It's just going to have a record of every customer and every company. And I think this is very personal to you. Like, it's how do you want your wiki to be organized? Like, maybe you want something completely different from what I did. Maybe you don't care about GTM or decisions or whatever. So yeah, we just made that custom.
Can the memory be extracted from Microsoft products, from Teams, from Outlook, calendars, from Microsoft products in general?
Yeah, so can the memory be extracted from Microsoft products? If it has an API key, then OpenClaw is able to access it. So yes, and then it ends up in your wiki in the right place. And something that I think is important on OpenClaw that we're going to keep on Pancake is you can always extract your brain. Like you can always just say, just download the brain. If you want to migrate to some other tool, like people are starting to use Hermes, for example, you can always just like extract your MD files. So yeah, the short answer is yes. So I think we can wrap this up and all have pizza and chat. Just before we finish, we really want to see this as a community of people who launch their autonomous companies, because I think we have a lot to learn from each other. So we're going to be doing more of those events. We're actually going to turn this into a monthly event. And I think like for the next events, I'd love to interview people who have started working on their own autonomous company, kind of just get examples, inspiration for others, share best practices. So I think next month we're gonna so you can all block on your calendars May 15th, which is the next event, and we're gonna organize really cool events. Again, it's gonna be here. It's gonna have pizza, cool discussions, and curious to know who is on Discord here. Who uses Discord? Who uses Slack? Yeah, okay. Okay, now I'm just gonna ask the question differently. Who would prefer the community to be on Discord? And who would prefer to be on Slack? Oh, that's actually 50-50. That's cool. Okay. So it's a debate we had just before the discussion. For now, we have a first community that we're launching tonight, which is on Discord. So sorry for the Slack people. So you can scan it. We might also do a Slack, we'll see. But you can scan it now and join so we can keep you updated on the launch of Pancake and also just like share. It's mostly about, sharing best practices on creating your autonomous company. Cool. Thanks everyone for coming and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.